First million for us was the hardest, Corey. It probably took me 3 years to crack $1 million. Okay. Then we sailed past $2 million easily. Like we did from 1 million to 2 million in the space of like 6 months. And then went from 2 million to 4 million in the space of about 18 months, from 4 million to just over $5 million, single location, one private chiropractic office, in just over like the next 8 months.
One location, one chiropractic office, $5 million, and he's not done yet. That's Dr. Bobby, a chiropractor based in Australia and one of the most impressive single location practices that I have ever seen. And in this episode, he's breaking down exactly how he did it. We're talking about why the $1 million goal is actually keeping most chiropractices broke, the exact order you should be hiring, how to build a talent acquisition funnel that is just like your new patient funnel, and the mindset shift that you need to make if you want to stop being the person that your practice is 100% reliant on. If you are grinding away at $1 million and think that's the ceiling, this conversation is going to change what you think is actually possible. Let's dive in. Dr. Bobby, what's up, brother? We are live and in the flesh. How are you doing, my man?
Fantastic, Corey. What's going on, my man? It's been a long time coming, this conversation.
Yeah, before I hit record, I was just reminiscing on how you live in the future. It's Wednesday here and it's Thursday there, and that just feels so weird to me that I feel like you know something that I don't. Like I should be planning for something. I don't know. It feels
it's almost the case. It's almost a case of that, man. I'll tell you when it's really weird when you fly. So I fly to the US a handful of times a year, pretty often. And you gain a whole day. You know, I leave Thursday morning, I arrive there Thursday morning, feels super weird. And then it's even more weird when you fly back because you lose a complete day. But yeah, it's all part of the fun.
It's like time travel, right? Like if you just stayed on the plane and kept circling the earth, would you just never age? Is that how that works? I don't know.
I'm not sure if it works exactly like that, but we'll go with that theory.
I doubt it. But anyways, let's kick things off. I want to make sure that people get a lot of value out of this. But you mentioned something offline, correct me if I'm wrong here, but basically something that kind of might challenge some of the people listening or watching this episode. You said the biggest misconception that chiropractors have is that they set their goals too low. And we look at often clinics are I want to hit the $1 million mark or the 7-figure mark. And I know that you have a belief around things much bigger than that, and goals and dreams much bigger than that for practices, like even reaching 10 million. Why does 10 million feel impossible to chiropractors? And I guess my question rooted in this is why do practitioners or professionals just set the benchmark so low? And what strategies would you implement to take somebody that's thinking 1 million is enough to maybe saying 10 million is enough? What would you say to them?
Yeah, man. I mean, let me explain that with a bit of a story. So what happened in my personal development in chiropractic is when I was a student, I realized there's this big division between, chiropractors who are seemingly doing quite well and living life of their dreams, dream job, dream career, and then the others who were just struggling and living a nightmare, quite frankly. And unfortunately, that was the reality. And, in my student years, I wanted to observe the whole lot of officers. I wanted to see what officers had in common, the successful ones from the rest of the bunch. And unfortunately, in my observation, what I felt and what I saw is just this massive poverty mentality in chiropractic. I don't know where it came from, but that's just my observation from it. Then as I started to get into the profession, I think it became more and more clear. And now, 13 years, how long have I been a chiropractor for? 13 years in, I see it more than ever before. And I believe that one of the reasons for it is, Corey, that we have this goal. There's this goal of, great, let's crack a 7-figure practice, $1 million office. And you'll always shape your mind based on what you keep feeding it. So if you continue to always feed it that the grand goal is $1 million, then that's kind of either where you get. Very few get to $2 million. And in my experience, I've been involved in some super powerful and heavy hitting groups in chiropractic, and those offices are usually around the $2.5 million mark in terms of annual collections. When I talk about money, I just talk about value created. The universe just rewards value through money. That's how we do it at the moment, right? If we live on planet Earth. So I look at that and I go, okay, in $1 million office, really there's only room for one person to be doing well there. And that one person doing well, relatively okay, well, is the owner. If you work on a 20% average profit margin, an owner even isn't doing well enough to be able to step back from adjusting and actually focus on running the business if that's what their heart desires. So for years, I would see this $1 million practice being pushed as though it was, the holy grail of chiropractic. Yet it still is a broke model where there's not enough money for more people doing well in there to build a proper organization with org charts, with accountability chart, leadership positions, multiple people taking accountability, bonus structures, the list goes on. All these things that happen in real life companies, right? And so in answer to your question, what made me look at $10 million as a magical mark? Well, because the first million for us was the hardest, Corey. It probably took me 3 years to crack $1 million. Okay. Then we sailed past $2 million easily. Like we did from 1 million to 2 million in the space of like 6 months. And then went from 2 million to 4 million in the space of about 18 months, from 4 million to just over $5 million, single location, one private chiropractic office, in just over like the next 8 months. And so I look at that journey, and we're in the middle of it right now. So my original chiropractic office is still one of the companies that we build, that we own, I should say. I look at that journey and I go, we're not done, and we totally have the roadmap planned out. $10 million, it's totally doable. And I just think to my head, $10 million is still nothing in the scheme of things. But I look at my head and I go, dude, imagine if the average clinic was doing $5 million. Would that change chiropractic, and would that change our ability to pour back into people, the profession, the product that we have? And I think the answer to that is absolutely. So I think people need to reframe in their mind what's possible, because I can tell you it's entirely possible to a lot more than that, traditional 7-figure practice that people aim for.
What took the first million so long? I think you said 3 years. Like, what was it about that first? And this isn't uncommon. Like, I've heard this many times before. Like, sometimes people say, like, even making their first 6 figures or making their first 7 figures, for whatever reason, it's like those are challenging numbers. So I'm curious as to why. What do you think the reason is? And number 2 is like, what if you were to do it again? What would you have done differently?
Yeah, man, it's a couple of things. I would say, first of all, it's people that you hang out with, right? So at that time, people that I was hanging out with in both my chiropractic circles and outside of chiropractic, everybody was kind of, in that land of like sub $1 million, sub 7 figures. And that was kind of like the golden throne that they were chasing. So that's part of it. But when you figure it out, you work out that it's a formula. And here's the biggest thing. Ready? So I was going to isolate it to one thing. It is this: your rate of growth will be directly proportional to your rate of skill acquisition. Okay. That's what it is. Full stop. So then the next question you should ask is, okay, well, how do you acquire skills? That's a great question to ask, because this took me a little while to figure out. And the way to acquire skills, quite frankly, again, is through other people who possess those skills. Now, that happens through the cheapest of cheapest forms at a starting point, if you want. Listening to podcasts, listening to YouTube, right? Actually doing it with intent, sitting down with a pen and paper and like zoning in and listening, taking notes. That costs you nothing. Then I've got a saying, Corey, in my life: when they pay attention. So many people just listen to all these things online, thinking if they just collect all this information, they'll be able to put it together and transform and hit all their goals. It's not true. You need a structured way of doing it. So then guess what? You can start paying to get people in your life that already have those skill sets. That can happen in the form of coaching, or it can happen in the form of a book. You get a book which is like $29, and the person has poured their life and all their best knowledge into a book, and it's $29, and you can buy this thing and sit down and read it. Again, the difference with a book is that there's no structure about how to implement these things. So I kind of got lucky where I took a massive gamble on myself while I was still a student, invested in my first coaching program. I remember the feeling like I literally, had a visceral response signing that contract. I made me sign a contract at the time. But it was one of the best decisions that I ever made in business, because it taught me how to be a student, and I've never stopped learning. And that's the key to it, man. It's keep learning skill sets, investing in yourself. And that's how you move forward. I think if I share with you how much I invested in myself in the last 12 months, it's probably more than what most chiropractors would invest in a career. But then you look at the trajectory of growth and multiple companies that we own and run, and they're all growing and scaling. It's because you acquire skills that enables you to do that. Whereas first year out, the only skill I had was how to adjust someone, and a bit tragically at that.
I've heard of the 10% rule. I believe it was Darren Hardy, if you know who that is, that would talk about that he basically said, like, you should always be investing 10% of your income into, whether it's coaching or courses or seminars or some form of personal development, which basically means if you make $100,000 a year, that should be $10,000. If you make $1 million a year, that should be $100,000. If you like, so on and so forth. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think too, I want to just double tap on the fact that you said, the difference between just like maybe listening to a podcast like this or reading a book or a coach is that there's always degrees of nuance that people forget about, which I think is one of the values of a coach, is because all advice is contextual, right? Is like, I can give you advice that might be useful, but it's only useful if it's given at the right time, under the right circumstance, under the right nuance. Like, there's just so much nuance to quote unquote good advice, which is why obviously having a coach can be super helpful, which is I think what you're talking about. You said skill acquisition leads to the growth, which I 100% agree. But then my question that first popped up when you said that was, well, then what skills, right? Like, what would you say are the most important, maybe 3 skills that you had to develop to get you from that 0 to 1 to $5 million mark? Like, what are the high level skills somebody needs to develop?
Yeah, look, man, that's a question that people ask me a lot. Hey, dude, so what skills do I have to develop now? And my answer to them is it depends what season you're in. It's really important because everyone's particular. Everyone's in a specific season of their journey, and their journey is different, right? So I think step one is it's critical to just identify where you're at in your season of growth, where you're at in your season of business, right? That's step number one, because what my next skill I develop is different to the next skill that someone who's, let's say, $500,000 practice needs to develop. So when you look at it in chiropractic terms, under $1 million, really, like to get to $1 million offers, it's all really about getting proper systems and infrastructure set in place. You need systems around attraction, so therefore you need skills about how to get new patients in the office. My first year, Corey, I'm sure we'll get into this, but it didn't start like that. My first year, by the end of it, I wanted to quit chiropractic. I was like, this is freaking terrible. And my whole family's in. I've got 5 chiropractors in my family now. I'm like, sorry, 6 now. I was like, this is horrible, man. Because I didn't know how to attract newies. That's what I worked out later. So I'd sit there with a blank book, just waiting for someone to ring the phone. And I remember looking at my stats. I had this stats sheet at the time where I would enter my new patients every week. And the stats sheet would be like 1, 0, 2, 3, 0, 1, 0, 2. I'm like, dude, right? So, under $7 million, you need to understand skill sets around attraction, how to get newies in, conversion. You need a proper conversion and communication system so that you can get someone to start care in the first place with proper intentions and expectations. And then step 3, a value building system so that it leads to great retention. If you can communicate with people and they understand the value of being adjusted and having your nervous system optimized long-term, that's going to lead to better retention, because you can't outmarket a broken retention model, right? Like trying to outmarket my practice, we have a saying where we go, trying to outmarket a broken retention model is just dumb. You can't outmarket dumb. So literally under $1 million, man, it's about getting those systems set up right. Then going $1 million plus, like going to $1 million and then to 3 million, it's all about team. You've got to learn the skill set of how to be a great leader, which, let's face it, we're not taught that, man. There's no courses, or no one at school teaches you about leadership qualities. So you need to be a leader worthy of following and a great vision caster, and then therefore attracting awesome talent, bringing people into your team and allowing those people to do great work, right? That's what it is. And then going $3 million plus, it's about having a great team, but also having a great model and understanding money and how money works, understanding money models, understanding all important things that's important, that's critical in order to scale office to the next level. So my answer is depends what season somebody is, depends what skills they need to acquire next.
Yeah. I mean, that goes hand in hand to what I was saying about the nuance of all advice, right? Is like you can give general advice, but it's only useful to the right person at the right circumstance. I'm curious as to what is the system that usually breaks when somebody tries to scale past $1 million, right? Like, okay, let's say the listener understands 0 to $1 million. It's important to have the systems and processes in place in terms of how do we generate leads? How do we convert leads? How to retain patients? How do we provide a good service? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what systems often break once they get past that point?
So systems that break past $1 million, most commonly, Corey, is definitely team. I just hear it and I speak to docs all the time. They either struggle to find A players. So they're like, dude, where are the A players? And they don't have a marketing system for team members. I say you need to have 2 funnels that are flowing in any business at one time. One is a new patient funnel so that you're continually getting new patients, leads, people that need your service, okay? That's the first thing. The second funnel that owners often miss is you need to have a talent acquisition funnel going on at all times as well. And the talent acquisition funnel is the people on your team that are going to take you to the next level. Now, in order to attract great people, there's a number of things that are required, but the first thing on the list is you need to have a great vision that's powerful. And let's face it, Corey, everybody on your team works for you in some capacity or another for their own selfish reasons. They're trying to achieve their own goals, desires, visions in life. So I say, when you're a leader that has a vision that's big enough to, within that vision, contain the visions of all your team members and their goals and their aspirations in life, that's when you know that you're on a good thing. And that's when you'll start attracting amazing people. And in the beginning, you'll attract them for less. Like, some of our people could go work for another company in the early days and make way more money. But it's because they're so bought into the vision of where we're going, what we're building, what we're achieving, that they work for us. And as a result of that skill set that they bring in, going back to our initial conversation, you then scale way quicker because they're going to do it way better than anything I can do in that specific domain.
I couldn't agree more. Your vision has to be big enough to fit other people inside of it, is what I was once taught. And I couldn't echo that statement enough in terms of understanding people want to continue to grow, right? Like, and they are attracted to leaders that will help them grow and to help them fulfill those visions. And so obviously your vision has to be big enough to fit other people inside of it. I'm wondering
that's the basic human condition. Human beings, it's not the attainment of a goal that satisfies us. We don't kind of like sit there unsatisfied and then when we hit the goal, we go, oh, now I'm happy. It's progression towards a goal, right? It's when you see progress. So in life, that's what we all yearn for: continual progression, continual growth.
So what I think most listeners probably understand the initial funnel of lead generation, right? Like when you say that, I'm sure a lot of things that come top of mind is referrals and maybe running some ads or maybe doing some local events or dinners with the doc or whatever. Name your host of 8 million ways to generate leads. But what about for the talent side of things? Okay, you have the vision, right? But what does that funnel actually look like? Are you tapping into the local university? Are you putting out ads in the same way that you do for your new patients? Like what does that funnel actually look like?
Yeah, cool, man. So that's a good question. Here's how I look at all marketing. All marketing is just the auction for attention of eyeballs. Okay. So traditionally back in the day, if you look at, well, how would we market? And a lot of the marketing would be done through mainstream media. So mainstream media would be things like television, newspaper, radio. Okay. You'd buy time on there to find, we're talking about new patients now. But let's have a look at like talent. How would we market for talent? Well, guess what? You'd put adverts into the newspaper. Okay. Why would you put adverts into the newspaper? Because 90% of people were like reading newspapers, right? That's where like the attention was. So I look at right now in today's world, where is 90% of the attention at the moment?
Social.
It's on social. It's on digital specifically. So once we understand where the eyeballs are, we know how to find people. Now, there's different avenues how to find people. I love this idea that marketing communication essentially has 4 real main avenues. Okay, and here's what they are. It's one-to-one cold outreach, one-to-one warm outreach, one-to-many cold outreach, one-to-many warm outreach. Now, once you understand those 4 concepts, you can then start to put platforms and you can start to put exact systems in the back of that. Let me give you an example. One-to-one warm outreach. You could pull out your phone right now, Corey, and you can send a message to everyone on your phone that knows you, hopefully if they're in your phone, saying something along the lines of, we're expanding and growing. We are in need of this position. We're looking for this kind of person. Boom, boom, boom. Do you know anyone? Everyone has a network in your phone. All right. And that would be an example of one-to-one warm outreach. One-to-one cold outreach would be an example of, okay, we need, let's say, social media manager. All right, we could go into LinkedIn and we could search in social media manager, and you could isolate it to your area if you need to find it local. And you could find everyone working in your area that's listed as a social media manager. And then you can go and message those people one-on-one. That would be one-on-one cold outreach. You don't know them, but that's what headhunters do in recruitment companies, okay? Then you've got the same thing, one-to-many cold. One-to-many cold is run adverts. So you're putting an advert in front of eyeballs and you're reaching cold audiences. And then one-to-many warm would be posting in areas that you're actively involved in, whether that's groups that you're involved in, school communities, Slack groups, right? Anything that you're involved in groups, you put mass messages, church groups, social groups, right? And so then it's a marketing game. It's literally about, all right, messaging and how you message and how you copyright and what you're looking for. And your ability to pique that initial curiosity where somebody like inquires, i.e. becomes a lead, right? And so I just look at everything through the marketing lens, and marketing for new patients is very similar to marketing for A-class talent.
Thank you for that perfect segue. I want to stay in this marketing for just a moment longer before we kind of shift on the next topic here. But in terms of generating leads, so let's say somebody wanted to generate anywhere from, let's say, 150 to 200 new patients, right? What is maybe the number one lever that you're pulling right now to be able to do something like that? Because I agree, I think there's those 4 avenues again that you just discussed. But like, if somebody had to pick one, which one would they pick?
Yep, spot on the mark, man. So to put it short, to put it easy, I always look at where are the eyeballs. And I don't know about you, man, but when I look at my community go out in the public, 90% of people are pulling these things out of their pockets called a smartphone, okay, with all these apps downloaded onto there. And if you have a look at the most visited sites on the internet, it's pretty simple. Top 3, Google, YouTube, and Meta-owned sites. So you want to know where to advertise? The proof is in the pudding. It's right there.
I love it. What's the hardest part about transitioning from lead adjuster to CEO? Like, how do you ensure that a clinic's like real skill level and excellence of providing good care doesn't drop when they leave the table? Because I know that's a big fear for a lot of doctors, is like they believe they're the I don't know, the unicorn, right? Only they can do what they can do, and they're the greatest, and yada yada yada.
Right.
What's the hardest part about making that transition?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that's a self-limiting belief that people sell themselves this lie. Let's call it what it is. Okay, no one can do it quite as good as me. Sure, I understand. I get it. They say that about most things in their business, right? No one can market. No one can make a video. No one can convert. No one can retain. Just insert the thing in there. No one can do it quite as good as me. Well, you know what, Corey? Here's the way I look at it. If someone can do it 80% as good as me, that's 100% freaking awesome, all right? Because you are not going to scale and you're not going to leverage just by you doing more and you hustling more and you trying to like sit in all the seats inside of the practice, right? It doesn't work like that. So is there a standard of care that should be administered inside of an office? 100%. But let me ask you this question. Your wife's a chiropractor, right?
Yep.
How did she become awesome at adjusting?
She mentored under a previous chiropractor.
And by mentoring under somebody else, that implies that she got a lot of what?
Reps.
Exactly. Reps, right? A lot of experience and reps. Now, it's one thing to do reps and something to do focused repetition. It's focused repetition that leads to mastery. So adjusting is a skill set like anything else. You know, I don't know about you, but when I throw a ball with my right hand. Do you throw with your right?
I do.
Dude, if I gave you a ball right now and got you to throw it with your left hand, what would that look like?
Awful. Don't. Nobody wants to see that.
Oh, dude, me too. I always consider myself decent at like pitching a ball. Like I'm not a pro, but I always consider like, yeah, you know, I can peg a ball pretty good. All right. Like with my right hand. If you filmed me with my left hand, dude, that would be a comedy show. It would be horrible to watch. Just like, I don't know, one of my friends, right, when I was in high school once told me this. No, I think when I was studying chiropractic, I would have been like in my early 20s. And he said, Bob, I drove an automatic car. He goes, have you ever tried Corey braking with your left foot?
Honestly, I have. I also do this weird thing too. If you ever tried brushing your teeth with your opposite hand, it's equally uncomfortable.
Oh man, it's so weird. But if you hear this, do not try and brake with your left foot. Believe me, if you're going to try this, do it in an open paddock where it's like there's no one around you at all. Don't do what I did. I was like in the middle of traffic and I was like slowing down. I'm a bit bored. Let me try braking with my left foot. And even though I was only going like 10 kilometers an hour, it's that's 7 miles an hour, right? Dude, the violent stop that car came to, which just like, I was like, whoa, have the airbags gone off? What is this? And it just made me realize how much touch and finesse you develop in your right foot through braking and through learning how to drive a car. And your left foot doesn't have that, right? So what's the moral of the story here? The moral of the story here, though, is if I started practicing my left foot, going to a paddock specifically, was focused, intentional, trying to get better at it, man, give me a month, give me a few weeks, give me a couple of months, I'll get pretty good at braking with my left foot. If I gave you a ball and got you to pitch it with your left hand only and just said, dude, you're going to do 1,000 of these, 10,000 of these, you'll get pretty good at pitching with your left hand. Now, you might never get as good as the right hand, but you're going to get way better and you're going to get pretty good. Well, guess what? Adjusting is a skill set that can be learned as well. And how do you learn it? You learn it through focused repetition. And so you might have nuances with how you adjust in your office. Guess what? You follow a system. So then you sit down and you define your system, and then you organize a training protocol so that you can train and you can edify others. Because if you're serious about scaling, if you're serious about chiropractic having the best product in the world, well, guess what? We're only going to get more people to receive that best product by training others how to be awesome at it. And that includes others inside your office in your form of your associates.
Yeah, let's dig deeper into this team building side of things, because obviously part of it is training, but I know, if I remember correctly, something you've said is that business building is really just team building at the end of the day. And so I'm curious as to if we could dive a little bit deeper into what does the team building actually look like? And even more specific than that, like, how do you, like, what is the first key executive hire, right? Like, I know we briefly touched on, yeah, okay, we can get a funnel for getting new members in there. And then there's going to be some sort of training process to that. But like, what about like even farther than that? Like, what about executive hires or even promoting to executive positions? Like, what does that look like?
So the aim of business is not you become good at doing everything. Okay. You as the owner. I used to think, oh, there's this thing called the CRM that's come out now. I guess I have to master CRM, skill set. Then I'd be like, oh, now there's workshops, right? I guess I got to master doing workshop. Then the new thing would come out, insert what it is here. Oh, Facebook ads are out. I guess I have to master Facebook ads and Google ads, okay? The aim of business is not you become a pro at everything, okay? The aim of business is to set up a money model where you can scale and buy back your time so that you can focus on high-level skill sets that grow the company more. And that last line is key there. The aim of business is buying back your time so that you can focus on high-level skill sets that grow the company. So in answer to your question, what's the hire that you do first? I do it in order of subcategories, okay? And I learned this through a very close mentor of mine. And when I saw this, I was like, oh my God, dude, this totally makes sense, okay? 100%. I wish I knew this when I was first in practice hiring my first CA, and not now. But there is an order of how you buy back your time, and there is an order of hiring as well, and how do you replace yourself. So let me share with you the journey, how it looks through a story. In the beginning, when I opened my practice, man, I was doing everything from getting there early, dusting the ceilings, vacuuming the floors, and opening the book.
You dusted the ceiling?
Dude, yeah, well, not the ceiling, but the cupboards, right? I dusted the cupboards.
Oh, I gotcha.
Dusted the fans on the ceiling because I was in this old shabby place, man. I was like, whoa, this is horrible. I would dust like the fans on the ceiling. But man, I was dusting. I was firing up the computer program. I was answering the phones, everything. I'll never forget those days. Okay. Then after a while, I'm adjusting people. My phone's ringing. I can't keep running out there. So I was like, I've got to hire somebody. So the first person that you should hire is someone that helps you with admin. In chiropractic world, we call that a CA. All right. So a CA is someone now that's going to dust the ceiling for you. All right. Answer the phone for you. You teach them opening protocols, closing protocols, banking protocols, collecting money, payments, mapping appointments, all these things. If you're intelligent, one thing that I wish that I'd done earlier is hired an EA. So a CA is someone who helps you with your chiropractic stuff inside the office. And EA is someone who helps you externally with your executive stuff. All right. We can talk about EAs another time. But that's all admin. So you can get all the admin off your plate. You do not want to be checking emails after a while, not only your practice emails, but your own personal emails, okay? So CA is the first person. You buy back time so you can focus on delivery. That means just getting better at filling your books up, getting better at delivering great care to people. Then eventually you hire out or you scale out delivery. So what does that mean in chiropractic? Well, you hire an associate, all right? Now, after we've got delivery done well, we put more focus and attention into marketing. So learning how to market, bring in leads. Okay, that's step one. Now, once leads come in, then we've got more opportunity to sell people. So once we've built the marketing machine, that's level 3 now, we get really good at generating leads inside of our office. Then we can delegate marketing out to somebody and we can teach somebody the systems of how to run marketing inside our office so that we can focus on sales. Sales is converting people into care, reconverting into care, and focus on the selling, which is what brings the cash inside of a business. Then eventually you hire other associates or tech CAs that know how to do that as well. And then you focus on the ultimate level of the ladder, which is leadership. And that goes back to becoming an awesome leader, someone worthy of following, vision casting, and understanding what the future is going to look like. So that's the order that you hire in, and that's the order that you replace yourself in at every single level. Then when it comes to executive teams, that just depends the level again that you're on. In the beginning, you're going to hire a CA and an EA. That's a type of level of leadership. As you hire multiple people, you're going to need an office manager. That's someone that manages the people so that you don't have to manage the people. And then eventually that office manager can ascend into an operations manager, head of operations, or sometimes you hear them called a COO. And that's the person who understands the operation of the business, can run the business in your absence, understands everything from P&Ls, systems, process, procedure. And going back to our first conversation today, Corey, that's a 6-figure position. So in order for you to be hiring I'm talking decent 6-figure position, you need to be making decent money, and you're not going to be able to do that with a practice that's $1 million, for example.
You've talked about the launch, build, scale, exit phases in a business, because I think this kind of plays nicely of what you're talking about there. Which phase do you think is the most dangerous for high earning owners? Like how do they avoid getting stuck there? Because I know those are all very different phases for a business. I'm curious which one people. I have my assumptions on it. Like you kind of mentioned that I don't know, $1,000,000 mark, which would be my guess, but I don't know. But I'm curious as to what you found to be true.
Look, all seasons have their pitfalls, and all seasons have docs that get stuck in them. Okay. Like, for example, in chiropractic, we're notorious for doing exit terribly. Chiropractor builds a successful office, is there for 30 years or plus, then gets to sell it and sells it for like peanuts. You look at every other business and, like the owner like works their ass off and then has this awesome exit where they're exiting for like multiple 7 figures, 8 figures, right? 9 figures. And it's like, wow, they built an asset. In chiropractic, we sell for peanuts. So you could say that exit is a massive issue for the legacy of our profession. However, one of the reasons why exits don't happen well is because build and scale don't happen well. All right. Like, most people get stuck, I would say, between build and scale. And build essentially means that you're trying to fill yourself up. So you're trying to establish systems, process, protocol that leads to predictability. The build person is the guy who 10 years in is still the main DC in his office or her office. 10 years in, they're still the main person in their office. They're still doing the majority of the adjusting. It's still reliant on them. They're still not completely full, or maybe they're full, but there's not enough money or time or energy to hire an associate. Then there's the people who kind of like do scale and they hire an associate and they hire a team, but then they're like, oh, my associate's not making me like any money. Like, maybe they're making a loss on the associate. Or in saying that, clear giveaway for it, Corey, is that they've got associates, but the practice still massively relies on them to adjust. And very often people hide that masquerader under the whole, oh, I love to serve. Sure. You can serve in other capacities that allows you to serve more people. I get it. All right. But the reality is it's because it's not a scalable business with enough margin in there where the owner can go, I can remove myself from adjusting or from 80% of adjusting, and maybe they're still in 10%, 15%, 20%, whatever they desire. But that for me is a hallmark of a successful business, an owner that gets to adjust because they choose to adjust, but their actual profits is where the majority of the income comes from, because that's how business is properly built.
Do you think a big part of this more sustainable scale piece of it and getting somebody past that has to do with just maybe even a doctor understanding some of the math behind it? Like, something I know you broke down before in the past was like noting that you often see a 600% return on investing for every dollar spent on acquisition. If the math is clear, like why do you think so many business owners are terrified to spend 5K, 10K a month on ads? Like what's the issue there?
They just, at the core, it's a knowledge thing. They just don't understand the idea of return on investment. But they'll gladly put their money in something that'll give them a 10% year-on-year return at best, or real estate or something like that. There's an order in investing. And in my mind, the number one order in investing is first invest in yourself. Okay. Human resource, starting with yourself, 100%. Then time and time again, we've known that the people that are the most wealthiest build that through their business. If I say to you right now, who are the top 3 wealthiest people that come to mind? You're probably going to name people like Elon Musk, all right? You're probably going to name people like Jeff Bezos. You're probably going to name people like Zuck. Where do they make their wealth? They made it through business. Now, that's not to say that they don't have other assets. Of course you do, right? But the reality is, when you understand the economics of business and you understand ROI, okay, then you understand how to scale a business. Really, scaling a business is just a numbers game. Even people who build wealth through property accumulation, which is big here where I am in Australia, it's just a numbers game with a bunch of houses thrown in the middle. That's what it is, right? So when you truly understand ROI and you know how to maximize and you know the levers that you can pull there, then you start to realize that, yeah, at a minimum, if you get a 600% return on investment with this $1 invested in my business, why would I try and get 7% over here? Wouldn't I just try as many dollars as possible to get in my business, i.e. through marketing, so that you can leverage and scale an asset that then cash flows for you and allows you to purchase other assets, and in turn makes that asset worth more as well, because it's a predictable business.
Yeah. It took me a long time, sadly, to learn that lesson. I was definitely very much wrapped into the employee mindset, I guess you could say, working as a occupational therapist and treating, and somehow believing that my 401k would give me the retirement that I wanted. But sadly, that just isn't the case for many people these days. But I want to close by speaking to the doctor who is maybe successful on paper, but's feeling like super trapped. Like, let's say they're doing, I don't know, maybe $1 million a year. And they are that doctor that's like kind of what you talk to, is they still feel like they need to adjust. They still feel like they need to be the one that has their touch on everything. What would you maybe say to them that could get them to do that final jump, to like step away from being that person that needs their touch on everything to jump into that position of a CEO? Like, what's the mindset shift that they need to make that happen?
They need to be comfortable with letting go and not being attached to everything. Now, that's easier said than done. Okay. So from a mindset point of view, I would encourage someone like that to ask them this question. If you truly believe that the product that we have through chiropractic is the best healthcare product exists in the world, then don't you feel it a duty to bring that to as many people as possible? And if you're going to bring it to as many people as possible, you're not going to do that by you laying your hands on as many people as possible personally. In history has always shown us that the way that you do that is by developing other amazing leaders. In fact, they say a great leader is that, a good leader is that who can develop a following. Great leader is that who can develop other great leaders. And so your ability to then take what you've learned, your skill set, package it, and then teach other people how to deliver that skill set, that's where real impact and real scale lives. And if you look at the greats in the profession, okay, you look at someone like BJ. All right, what did BJ do when he figured this thing out called chiropractic? He didn't set out and go, all right, I'm going to try and open 10 offices in Davenport where I am, and I'm going to get into all this, and I'm going to try and adjust as many people as possible. No, the first thing that his mind went to was like, I'm going to open a school. I'm going to develop a school, because in the school we can develop other awesome people, right? You know, you look at so many of the greats, they did that. Then what else did he do? Well, he bought a radio station, because he's like, well, it's not good enough that we just go into the schools. We've got to get the public to know. So have a look, going back to what I spoke about before, you've got to have a new patient acquisition funnel and a talent acquisition funnel. So BJ had to figure it out, dude. He's like, the new patient acquisition funnel, radio, okay? That's where the attention was at the time. The talent acquisition funnel, school. I need to find other great people that I can train out to be chiropractors. Feed the school, all right? Feed the office and feed chiropractic. So the reality is that you do have something special. You do have a specialized skill set, specialized knowledge. Don't let that just die through you. It's like the way that you're going to really make an impact on the world and leave a legacy at the same time is by training other great people. And I get it. Maybe you had a bad experience with associateships before. I've tried associateships, they don't work. No, it's just the way that you tried it didn't work. If they were like that about the light bulb right now, you know, we wouldn't be sitting underneath a light bulb. Well, I tried it and it didn't work. I tried it, and it didn't work. We just didn't try it the right way. That's the key message.
You know, it's funny. Ironically, I did my grad school in the Quad Cities in Davenport, actually there in Iowa. And I remember in school seeing all the chiropractors around town, and I never even thought twice about like why there were so many chiropractors in that town until I got into the industry, and I was like, oh, all right, this makes a lot of sense.
Now you get it. Now you get it.
Yeah, but I know you believe that success leaves speed, and I love speed, and so I want to guys wrap this conversation up by saying, like, if someone's listening, they're ready to stop overthinking, they want to execute today. What is the very first resource or step they should take to, I guess, start building their own patient machine immediately? And really what that is a plug for, like, where would you recommend somebody go, or how do they get started in terms of maybe checking out your resources or seeing what you're about, or even other resources that they should tap into?
Dude, you can do so much stuff that's just free. Like, and if you do it free though, you need to ensure that you still pay attention. Because remember, when you pay attention, and the amount of money you pay, the amount of attention you pay. Okay, believe me, having learned that multiple times over in my career. But as a free resource, one of the things definitely that's enabled us to just power our office and build and, you know, have so many associates successfully growing and, you know, all happy, is our ability to just smash marketing. So marketing systems and acquisition channels have definitely been a stronghold of ours. People always ask us whenever I speak at stages and chiropractic circles, can you give me an example of your ads? Easiest resource, man, if you want something free, follow me on Instagram. I'm Bobby.Ilijasevic. That's ILI, spell that on Instagram, and just DM me ads, and we'll send you a copy of our best performing ads. So literally people like that, and they just go and they recreate those same ads, and go for it. These have been tried and tested. So if you add me on Instagram, that's step number one. And then step number two is, it's funny, right? In today's world, you look at these social channels, like we talk about Instagram there, Facebook is the same, TikTok is the same. You can build your social channels and teach the algorithm how to brainwash you to success. So watch this. By going onto Instagram, adding me, DM me, you start to send a signal out to the algorithm. Guess what? You'll start to see then a lot more of this kind of stuff coming across your feed. You'll start to see a lot more coming across your feed, right? How to build, what to do. Now, that can be a distraction if you don't know what's legit and what isn't, right? But the reality is, whenever I want to become masterful at something, I just train my algorithm to start serving me stuff around that. And guess what? I build mastery around it. So start there. If someone needs more help and support, we've got so many great coaches in chiropractic. Reach out to people that you resonate with. Have conversations, okay? So many people are willing to share their knowledge. Just have a chat, reach out, and then you'll be amazed at what happens when you invest in yourself, okay? Don't be afraid to invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to invest in your business. And while a lot of resources start free, you definitely also want to pull out your wallet and pay for things, because when you pay for things, you pay attention. That's what I would say.
You know, it's funny, on my walk this morning, the idea that I was flirting with was that we are all drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. And I feel like that's a lot of what you're talking about is like, yes, there is unlimited free resources of information out there to consume. But to be honest, like very few of it is actually deep, useful, important in the moment, or even at all relevant to your circumstance. And so defining
I find the filter for that, Corey, though, so much easier if you understand two things. Here's rules that I've always lived by in my life, and it's helped me immensely with all the success we've achieved. Okay. Number one, we briefly touched on it, is get super clear with what is it that you want from your life. Okay. So if we're talking about practice now, get super clear about where do you want the practice to be. I look at what we've built. I think you had one of my great friends in here on the show, Dr. Josiah. I think he was on the show as well, right? Him and I connect every other week as well, and chat. Look at things like this and go, all right, cool. Yeah, that's what I want. I want to build a proper business, proper company that's scalable, that I can still adjust if I have to, but I don't need to, essentially. That's step number one. Get clear on what you want. And then step number two is only listen to people that have achieved that. Because it's very easy for somebody to get up and talk a big game. And I'll never forget, I'll give you this story. I saw the algorithm serve me up it was a video, right? And the video essentially was this dude sitting in a car, it was in a Bentley, and he was talking about, building business and some business mentorship program. It was somewhere out of Europe. Business mentorship program, right? Saying all the right things. On the surface, you look at that and you go, wow, saying all the right things, okay? Now, when I say this to you now and you listen to this podcast, you think, okay, until you saw the video. And the guy in the video was like morbidly obese. So he was like, I'm going to talk in kilograms, become Australian. He was like at least, probably like 180 kilograms. I'm going to say something like 350 pounds. And he's sitting in his Bentley. And dude, I couldn't hear the message just because of the messenger. And when I went into the comments, which is always a funny place to go, right? The amount of messages that were like, oh, dude, maybe this guy needs mentorship on like health or this or that or the other. But the point is that I always get clear on what I want and then find people that have achieved that, whether that's fitness. I want a PT that's like looks the part, that looks fit. I want a chiropractor that's going to train, that's going to teach me, that's achieved in business what I'm striving to achieve. And if they haven't, be very careful who you take advice from, because anyone can talk a big game, but the reality is specialized knowledge is developed by having done it and not by having just seen it.
Don't take financial advice from your poor friends. That's the message I got here.
Classic example of it. Yet it's amazing how often we do that in different circles, right?
I know. Bobby, thank you.